What is going on, guys? Rob here with RK Motorsports. If you guys remember, a few weeks ago I ended up posting a video about picking up 2 bikes for free. Right behind me is one of the bikes, a 2003 Ninja 250. We're gonna see if we can get this thing fired up and running. Alright guys, so this is going to be my plan of attack for this motorcycle. This thing has been sitting for probably 3 years now, and this is a carbureted motorcycle. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to first take the tank off, we're going to drain the gas, put some new fresh gas in there. Then I want to get to those carburetors, clean those out, see if we can get those nice and fresh. That way everything's running properly. And I don't believe the battery in here is working. We're going to get that old battery out, throw a new one in, and then we will see if we can get this thing fired up. Now, first things first, we are already having issues. I tried to get into the gas cap here, and unfortunately, it's a little seized up. So what I'm gonna do, I don't wanna bend these keys because these are the 2 original keys. I don't wanna snap these off in there. We're gonna have way more problems. So I'm gonna show you guys what I do to loosen up a seized up gas cap. So first things first, what I recommend doing is putting a little penetrating lubricant right on top of the gas cap, right on the keyhole, and kind of let that soak in there for, as long as possible. If you can, let it sit overnight. That way it really soaks in there. But either way, get some penetrating lube on there so it can start working in. So after we spray the lock with our penetrating fluid, right now we're going to take like a flat-sided punch and a hammer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just knock around the outside of this cylinder so we can kind of work this loose and maybe work that penetrating oil in a little bit more. Now we can try and take our key and see if this will open up now. It freed it up a little bit. So now what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and turn that and hit it at the same time. There we go. So just like that, we were able to get that popped open. Now we can look inside the tank and see how that gas looks. Now that we've got this open, first impressions of the fuel, it's very clear, very, very clear. And one thing that I'm noticing, it doesn't really have a very strong fuel smell. So we're gonna drain this thing out and we're gonna get all this old gas out of this tank. So as I took the tank off, I did find some of these LED strips underneath the bottom side of the tank. So you guys know how much I love these LED strips. We've got all this wiring here and it goes down to like this little toggle switch on the side. We are not going to be using that. So let's snip these wires. See if we can pull all this junk out. There we go. Look at that nonsense. And there we go. There we go, that looks a lot cleaner. One last wire, that looks a lot cleaner in there now. And you guys know what I like doing with these LEDs, right to the trash. So we can take this battery out now. This thing is completely shot. I tested it at 0.0 volts, so we are not gonna be needing that right now. I am gonna try and throw our jump pack on here to see if this bike will at least crank. The reason why I wanna do this now is because we have the tank off. We don't have to worry about any bad fuel getting down into the motor. So I at least wanna hear this thing crank and try and turn over. All right guys, we have our jump pack hooked up to our terminals. Let's turn the power on here. And now let's turn the key and see if we can get this thing to crank. We do have lights on the gauge cluster, that's good. Sounds promising. We got our headlight working. This thing cranks. Sounds like it's turning over okay. So now let's move forward with trying to disassemble a little bit more, get down to those carburetors, we'll disassemble those, clean those, and we'll see if we can get everything reinstalled and get this bike running. All right guys, we got our tank back on the bike, we've got gas in there, we've got our lines hooked up. Now I do believe that this is a vacuum style petcock, so we need to have the bike cranking in order for that to open up a valve to let fuel into the carburetor. So I'm gonna try and spray a little bit of starting fluid in the air box. Hopefully that'll help start the bike up. Sounds promising, we just gotta get her running a little bit more. All right guys, we got this thing running on its own power right now. I've got the choke on still. There we go, choke is completely off right now. This bike is running on its own power. Motor sounds pretty decent actually. I mean, the bike only has 3,229 miles on it. This thing sounds really nice. The only thing that I do notice that I still need to do, if you look right here, we have a couple drips of fuel from our carburetor. I totally forgot to order a carb rebuild kit for this bike, so we do have to address that issue.
3 days later.
And here we are a couple days later. Notice we have no leaks in here now. I just took our carb rebuild kit, redid everything on our carbs there. We got new gaskets, new jets in there, so we are good to go. I have a new battery in this bike now as well, so all I have to do is just throw our gas tank back on here, and let's take this thing for a test ride. All right guys, we got this bike outside. Now let's get this thing on the road, take it for a quick little test ride because it is getting darker out by the minute. So let's hop on this thing and see exactly how she rides. I am going to take it easy just because I checked the date. I checked the date code on the front tire. The front tire is actually the original tire from when this bike came from the factory in 2003. So I'm not going to go too crazy on this thing. And then again, it is a 250, so I can't really get too crazy on it. Another thing I noticed, this bike does need fork seals, so it feels a little awkward in the front. And another thing that I'm noticing riding this bike, it looks like my hands are almost kind of like cocked to the left a little bit. So I'm definitely gonna have to take a look at that when I get back to the shop. But overall, this bike is performing very well so far, and I think this is gonna be a great platform for somebody to start learning on. And we are back. All right guys, so I think this thing performed extremely well. all in all, it only took us really about 2 hours of work to get this free bike up and going. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the turnaround. I think this was a great deal. I am still going to have to get a front tire, and I will be going through this bike completely to make sure it's fully functioning and ready for the road and ready to sell to a new owner. So like I said, hop in those comments below. Let me know what you guys think about this thing. It is only a 250, but I think it's a great deal for what I have into it. And until next time, I will see you guys next week for another bike rebuild. Rob with RK Motorsports, signing out.